Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. We have an XRP Ripple video for you guys today. Before we do that, don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel, loads of different assets and topics that we cover. And if there isn't a asset that we haven't got, perhaps that's in your portfolio, for example, or one that you want us to cover or research, do let us know in the comments below. We do have a People's Crypto being recorded this weekend, so for sure we'll be covering at least 5 of the assets, and we will be looking to do live recordings at least once a week from now on as well. Apologies, we didn't do one this week, a lot going on with some crazy things at home, so back into the mix of this, guys. And of course, don't forget to smash that subscribe button if you have not done so already. Welcome to the channel if you're new, and of course welcome back if you've been with us for some time. So guys, let's go into the first topic around Ripple. This is relating to Ripple winning again the court fight against the SEC. So the SEC appealed, for those that don't know or perhaps missed the information a couple months or so ago, where we covered the fact that XRP Ripple had been not deemed security. It went through, passed with flying colors essentially after 2-3 years of unbelievable back and forth within the courts there involving Ripple and SEC. And of course that decision a couple months ago probably rolled the people up in the SEC, perhaps the embarrassment of it as well, which we did mention in that video for those that did watch that one. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. I'll leave it at the end of this one for sure to have a bit of a reference point for this topic. But yes, the appeal came about and they very much failed in this. We kind of knew that would happen, to be honest. I think they were just trying to have a bit of saving grace, as it were. But yes, the rejection of the SEC's motion to appeal is seen as a significant victory for Ripple, which has been fighting the lawsuit for, as it says, several years. I think it's not been that long. The lawsuit alleged that Ripple violated investor protection laws by selling over $1.3 billion worth of tokens of XRP starting in 2013 without registering the offers and sales of XRP. There's always been an interesting argument or conversation around whether we as retail investors should even have XRP based on what it is and what it'd be used for. But I guess that's the aspect of decentralized exchanges or centralized exchanges offering these kind of tokens. And back then, you're offering those to the wild, if you like. And I think there was a really interesting interview a few years back where Brad Gardenhouse, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he was saying around the fact that they perhaps not regretted, but perhaps it shouldn't have been available for us. So this is where this security aspects come in. Of course, around the world, this hasn't really been an issue. It's only really been the SEC, and we've always thought, or I believe purely, that the SEC is a lot of theatre. I don't quite know what they're doing these days anymore, to be honest, other than causing mischief and annoyances to most people, and particularly companies, and of course in the crypto sphere. Of course, they have an element of protection towards citizens of the US, and ultimately it does ripple across, excuse the pun, to the rest of the world as well in terms of decision making, potential partnership barriers, and of course the price point of XRP, which we'll go into a bit more detail in a second anyway. But this is significant in the sense that we can hopefully just put it under the carpet and move on. I wasn't expecting any massive fluctuations of XRP price like we saw a couple of months ago, but for sure I think this really builds a good foundation for the coming months and years, and particularly for investors as this bull run potentially comes around 2024 to 25. We don't have this kind of issue in the background anymore. So I think that's where a lot of the negativity came towards XRP for a long time. People selling off and just being stagnant with it, not perhaps buying it in case something went really bad. And ultimately, guys, to be honest, if it was deemed as security, it's not the end of the world for them. I mean, it is probably monetary value for them in terms of the lawsuits and stuff, but there's a multitude of tokens out there that have been deemed securities, and people don't necessarily always understand what that is. But a lot of the time, clarity is actually a good thing, and it could still be utilized, albeit potentially in a different way, in exchanges and how we hold them and sell them, buy them, etc. The Ken coin was a great example of that, I think around 2017 or 18, where it was actually deemed a security and it shot up something crazy like 1400% within 24 hours. Now XRP didn't quite do that, but we are on a bit of a a bear market and bear market in general that could perhaps coincide with the fact that didn't quite get the magnitude that we thought it would. But there's a lot of holders of XRP, as everyone knows, and it's a strong asset, it's a strong project and technology, and the partnerships have just been flowing through irrespective of these lawsuits, which just in my mind was like, I didn't really have an interest in the theatre of the SEC lawsuit because the partnerships were coming in thick and fast, and ultimately that's what it was about, the adoption and the integration, especially in the cross-border perspectives, and of course the developments towards CBDCs and other frameworks that they're building upon as well. Of course, in the last video that we did, we talked about the G20 frameworks involving Ripple. So there's loads going on. And finally, to kind of actually enforce that point about this kind of like world integration, interoperability, cross-border payment aspects, Ripple has finally got a license approved in Singapore. Now, Singapore apparently has a population of around 5.4 million. I thought it was a bit bigger than that. But it's still a large number, so there's a big market there. And, at the end of the day, Ripple is pretty much everywhere around the world now, but it's slowly but surely getting these licenses, and particularly perhaps maybe coincidental that the news was kind of coming out after the appeal success in Ripple's favor, of course, the last few days. But this is quite interesting. So Singapore has developed into one of the leading fintech and digital asset hubs, striking the balance between innovation, consumer protection, and responsible growth, said Brad in a statement, adding that the country has been the company's Asia Pacific headquarters for 6 years. So it kind of gives it that substance from a head office perspective and operation perspective to coordinate strategies and frameworks moving forward without any kind of major issues or barriers or hurdles in the years to come. This is really good positive news. As I mentioned, it's one of their significant areas of interest, and of course being a massive powerhouse in fintech in general for Singapore and those particular regions of the world, it really just boosts the confidence in my mind about where Ripple is right now as a company. It's been around for some time now. You could argue in the grand scheme of things it's still in a bubble perspective or a startup perspective in that instance. But in the background, guys, I mean, I've sat with some of the head of tech and operations of Ripple at some of the Digital Pound Foundation events, and just unbelievable how far ahead they actually are. And when you peel away that ethos around market price and things and people going, oh, why isn't the price rising, this, that, and the other, the actual understanding of what they are as a technology and what they're achieving in the fintech world worldwide is absolutely staggering. And the conversations, or very brief conversation, you can imagine how they're busy they are, that I had with them at the event, just some snippets of information, but it was absolutely phenomenal and really appeasing in my mind to hear that. I am an investor of the XRP token, holding in my ledger for some time. I accumulate where possible. Again, we'll go into the price in a second, but it just reaffirms things in your head when you, not necessarily just words, I don't like cling on to certain words or anything like that. It was more what they have been achieving and what they are about to achieve that was really significant. And I particularly pay attention more so to that whole CBDC ethos as well, and that integration of cross-border payments and how successful that is with the frameworks of the projects that have been going on via the BIS as an example. And of course these frameworks now going on in a regional basis, absolutely mental. So those are two really positive things out of Ripple. And I've already had a few messages through some of the WhatsApp groups and things as to, well, hang on a minute, this is appeals being successful. We've seen news around these approvals of licenses and things. Why is the XRP price not moving? And ultimately, my answer towards that has always been the same across a multitude of assets in the market at the moment, is that we are in the bear or winter markets. Still a lot of development going on, and ultimately, yes, there have been piloting and trials and frameworks being developed, etc. But the full adoption of this, the real working capacity of XRP as a token, is not fully operational yet. It's of course being used in certain aspects and certain areas and sectors around the world, but ultimately its full adoption is not there yet. So in my opinion, you're going to get two massive narratives in the next 2 years. We've already had the AI wave and the NFT wave, but I do believe the AI wave will come back into fruition. The reason being mainly behind that is the operation of AI IoT, Internet of Things, and blockchain working simultaneously and collectively together. And I think that's a really important point. But amongst this, we do have the launch of the RTGS. This is the remittance messaging services and financial system pretty much of the world, going live in 2024, or turning it on at least, and actually being fully operational around the world, supposedly by November 2025. That's the dates that have been given by the banks and things. So we got that, the central bank digital currencies, and of course all of these things have to work based on algorithm and data and simultaneous working around the world with all the financial industries there. And that's where I think we're going to get a big bull run around these narratives, these conversations as they launch. And people will jump in and go, well, what's powering all this? And you're going to get the usual names out there like Ethereum, XRP, of course, Stellar, all these names that have been around for a long time, amongst all the other chains and operational tactics of layer ones and layer twos, as well as the layer zero, of course, that come into fruition. And I think XRP in particular, when these major frameworks go live, is where we start seeing the significant power of it and the demand more so for the XRP token in that institutional level, which will ultimately drive the price in the market. So let's look at that now as a point of discussion. We mentioned in the last video we were waiting for some buy opportunities in the lower regions here. We did hit one of those lower areas back around this 46-45 cent mark. Since then we've had a tracement upwards. Of course, the news outlets coming out in the last couple of days pulled itself back up to around 54-55 cents, and we've had a bit of a retracement back down towards testing this 52 cent level on the macro fib retracement level, that is. And relatively, I would suggest that there's a bit of a magnet around this longer term fib level of 50, I'd say 49-50 cents pretty much on the nose. So we've got a few things to look out for here, because in my anticipation is that yes, we're on a bit of a downward trend the last 48 hours. We could have a retest of this 49 cent area. Now, depending on how many you're accumulating or how many you hold, in my honest opinion, I don't get too fussed at these certain levels of the difference between 50 cents and 52 cents. So for me, I'm very much still waiting for these buy orders at the just under that sort of 47 to 45 cent mark again, where I do see a bit of value in that 5 or 6 cents saving in the long run to accumulate as much XRP as possible. Now, there is argument to suggest, and I will reiterate why I'm saying this, if we look at the history of data points of XRP, we can relatively say that there's only really been about 5 or 6 specific data points at this area of interest, which is floating around that 56 cent area, where we saw rejection 2 or 3 times back here in 2021 in the bull run cycles, of which we saw the resistance, or actually the support in that instance. In the 2 areas here on October 2022 and April 2023 respectively, these were rejected as support areas when we got to those points, and ultimately the resistance levels brought those numbers down. Now, we took that up with that huge announcement after the SEC ruling went in Ripple's favor, and that was back in July. Can you believe how fast this year is going? And ultimately that was always going to come down, and we had a bit of a pinpoint here back exactly to these pinpoints, and that's why I kept these circles here so you can see this in detail in the historic information and data points of the XRP token in the chart. So we're currently floating around, playing around with this area again, which is why I'm anticipating that with this kind of subdued movement in the last month-ish, that we may come back and see these lower levels again at these kind of 45 areas. I'd be amazed at this moment in time to see it drop down significantly below the 40 cent level. I do think there'll need to be a significant market drop like we saw here. What day was this? 17th of August. You do get the occasional one that drops in. Now, I do anticipate this will be more of an organic drop down, or at least a stabilization around this 55 to 50 cent mark. But anything can happen in a 24-hour period. We could start seeing a retest. But as I said, I find it a bit unlikely at this moment in time to see any kind of short-term moves all the way back down to lower than that 40 cent mark. It's of course possible. It's not financial advice, but we've got to take this in stages, guys. And if I just pull this open a bit more, you can see a bit more detail as to what I mean by this. But yes, we're very much playing around this critical area again I don't think we're going to get huge support. We might see a bobble up to this 60 cent mark at some point, potentially to do a retest. But ultimately, these are really interesting areas of accumulation in this bracket format. And for those that can't maybe see too well, we do have the longer term fib levels where you can see that bracket drawn out. And in fact, what I'm just going to do is quickly, can't find my rectangle, perhaps would be more helpful. So we're currently here at 54 cents, but I'm just going to draw this in. This is basing on the macro and the medium level fib level. And if I just draw another one, taking that level back down to here, in the slightly longer term medium levels, this is kind of like my areas of interest at the moment. So this is where we could potentially take profits and accumulation as well. I'm not selling any XRP, I haven't done. I'm more of an accumulator and taking advantage of good price point availabilities that come about, and that's what I continue to do. And at the moment, if we just look at the bottom left quickly, based on today, the 90 days gone a bit weird. I don't know why that's not coming up, but we'll look at the 14 day anyway. 53 and 28 day is showing 49. These are still too high for me personally, which is why I said I think we might see some organic stabilization and potential bite points at these sort of 50 cent levels again, potentially. Performance wise on the right hand side here, we can see it's all in green. There's great news in terms of the 6 months is probably still accommodating the fact that we had that big uprise with that great announcement there. We've had a couple of good positive outcomes in the last few days, so it's keeping that 1 week and the 1 month slightly afloat. But in general, yes, it's positive, but it's still in the lower regions, so I'm anticipating that some of those may go red in the next week or so. Not that makes too much interest to me personally. As I said, I'm a long-term holder. But for those on the short-term areas, might start seeing some opportunities to grab some XRP at some really interesting price point levels. But other than that, guys, we'll keep up to date with XRP Ripple movements, both in the price and also from the company aspect as well. If anything comes out in the next few days, I'll probably be doing YouTube shorts on this particular project unless something major comes out. But this is good positive movements for XRP Ripple. As I said earlier, guys, building a phenomenal foundation for the future of its adoption and its integration around the fintech world, and also having this clarity around the SEC movements and lawsuits really gives a great foundation for the price movements in those bull cycles in the year or so to come. So guys, let us know what you think about the news in the last few days, what you're thinking about Ripple XRP in general, both short-term and long-term. And guys, we will catch up on the XRP token very soon. Thanks for watching this one. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.